Every time the ball drops, 2021 starts over again, and I'm the only one who remembers. My name is Julie Winters. I was born on December 13th, 1996. I should be 39 years old now. But I'm not. I'm 24. I've been 24 for 16 years. I can't grow older. I can't die. I've tried both. I was here before. You were here before. All of us were here before, but somehow nobody remembers. Nobody ever remembers, only me. It's the same thing every time. December 31st, 2021, we're standing in the middle of Times Square, landlocked in the sea of revelers. The ball drops, the countdown. 3, 2, 1, ... and the calendar turns to January 1st, 2021, again. In December of 2020, my friends and I had planned to go to Times Square for New Year's Eve, just as we always do. But this time, we were going with special purpose. To give a huge middle finger to the past year as we sail away toward new horizons. Some friends even flew in a few days early for the event. When Prince and the Revolution said they were going to party like it's 1999, I think they had the right predictions, just the wrong year. But on December 30th, the police announced that while they were still going to drop the ball, nobody would be allowed in Times Square on New Year's Eve. To say that we were disappointed was the understatement of a lifetime. What would we do now? Sit home and watch a live stream of the ball drop after friends flew here from across the country? They could have stayed home and done that. No, this was not going to go down like that. We were not going to be denied our rite of passage out of this year. I knew that many of the elites were being given permission to watch the ball drop from surrounding locations. And police presence was going to be cut by 80%, which definitely worked in our favor. The plan was to approach from several blocks away, avoiding 8th Avenue and 42nd Street at all costs. We would gradually get closer while maintaining an aloof presence, as if we were simply on our way somewhere else, not trying to enter the square. With these covert measures, it began to feel like we were trying to avoid detection by occupying forces. It was close to midnight when we made our approach. We couldn't go early, or we'd risk being pushed out of the area completely by the police before the ball dropped. As some random, nameless pop star finished a bland cover of a John Lennon song, the 30-second countdown began. When the countdown hit 15 seconds, we picked up our pace. 10 seconds, we started running. A cop saw us and yelled, "Stop, you can't be here." But it was too late. We were already there, less than a block away from the ball as it was landing. In perfect view, 3, 2, 1. Came through the broadcast in my earbud as the cop was just yards away from us. Happy New Year! I don't remember anything after that. All I remember is that we were in front of 1 Broadway Avenue when midnight hit, and suddenly, it was 3 a.m. and we were back at my place in Queens. I didn't say anything about my missing memory to the others, and they didn't say anything to me. I wondered if the occupying forces had been keeping people away for reasons other than a virus. The next New Year's Eve 2021, the same group of us met up, except for John. He couldn't make it this year. This time, the streets were full. Everything was back to normal. Or, so I thought. Everything was going as you'd expect. The flavors of the month were lip-syncing their current radio hits. Talking heads from radio and TV were all talking into microphones and telling their audience how much fun they were supposed to be having. When the countdown reached 10 seconds, the crowd chanted along. 3, 2, 1, happy, and that's when I came to consciousness back at my apartment in Queens, along with my friends. The same friends, including John, who couldn't make it this year. I turned on my TV and flipped through the playbacks of the celebrations. The number 2021 was splashed everywhere, even across the huge plastic glasses that they were all wearing. My phone said it was January 1st, 3 a.m. Just 3 hours prior, it was December 31st, 2021. I woke up the next day, thinking of what a strange dream that was. That is, until I started flipping through social media posts. Everybody was wishing everyone a happy 2021. I thought I must still be dreaming. But the dream didn't end. I continued living every day just as I had the year before. I knew when many things were going to happen before they happened. Some of the things that I didn't remember would hit me after they happened, making me laugh. I tried seeing a psychiatrist. I didn't tell them that I still thought I was repeating the previous year. I presented it as a thing that temporarily plagued me, but I was now aware that it was not real, and I was just trying to figure out how it happened and work with the fallout of it all. When the DOC asked me if I still think I'm repeating the previous year, I hesitated before stumbling and saying no. I think he knew I was lying. My birthday came again on December 13th, and I turned 25, again, as I had the year prior, before timer set. Again came New Year's Eve in Times Square. And again, at midnight, I awoke at 3 a.m. in my apartment in Queens, celebrating January 1st, 2021 with the same friends. And it happened again and again. I tried changing things over the year, thinking that I did something wrong and needed to fix it in order for time to finally continue moving forward. None of this worked. After my 8th time repeating 2021, I decided that I couldn't take it anymore. I was going to end it. In mid-July of that cycle, I drove across the George Washington Bridge. Halfway across, I pulled over to the side and left. My next memory was of waking up in my apartment in Queens at 3 a.m., January 1st, 2021. I can't even die. No matter what happens to me, time keeps resetting. This year, one thing changed. After the ball dropped and the countdown hit 0, I did not suddenly wake up at 3 a.m. in my apartment. This time, on the stroke of midnight, we stayed exactly where we were on the street in front of 1 Broadway Avenue. The sea of revelers from December 31st, 2021 suddenly disappeared. 1 second prior, we couldn't move. Now, we were standing alone in front of the ball, streets empty. Still New Year's Day 2021, just now 3-hour time and space shift to my apartment. I no longer care if I am deemed mad or insane. I am telling my story publicly in order to try to find anybody else who remembers the reset. I haven't yet met anybody who remembers. So I am now casting the widest net possible by telling my story online. Please contact me if you remember. There has to be someone, Julie Winters.
My squad and I came across something terrifying in Iraq. Things changed forever when those towers came down in 2001. I was 19 at the time, eager to enlist, and that's exactly what I did. I became a soldier, longing to kill as many of the bastards behind the attacks as I could. I don't regret enlisting, but there's one city in Iraq that I wish I had never stepped foot in. In 2003, the U.S. government sanctioned and conducted a full-scale invasion of Iraq. I was among the boys sent over there, and personally, I thought what became known as the Iraq War was gonna end in a week, and it was only a matter of time until we had Saddam Hussein's body. My squad and I were sent into a small city, no, I won't give away the name, to assist in clearing buildings with Marines, with SEALs providing overwatch from various rooftops. It was simple, but it was brutal, and I wanted nothing more than to be back home. Walking upstairs with 40 to 60 pounds of gear, finding locals who were told to evacuate long before we took the city, and the heat of the Middle East didn't help anything. We cleared structures well into the evening, and by nightfall we came across what appeared to be apartments. We stopped for the night in one of these apartments, taking advantage of whatever food we could find. By midnight, we were all pretty worn out and some of us were already asleep. Not me. I laid there, staring at the ceiling as jets and helicopters whirred in the distance. If not the sound, the faces of the few men I had killed in combat up to this point really kept me awake. I was about to drift off to sleep when I was jolted back up by an unfamiliar sound. I know what sounds I should be hearing right now. Tanks, jets, gunshots, all of which should be in the distance, well away from where we were set up, but it sounded like it shouldn't be here. It sounded like ... laughing. I sat up and listened again, trying to hear it. It didn't sound like it was coming from inside the apartment, or the building for that matter. It sounded just as distant as the other noises, but was none the less there. It sounded like a little kid, like they were having the time of their life doing whatever they could possibly be doing. It was weird, certainly, but I was too tired and sort of care much. I slowly drifted to sleep again. I was awoken by someone in my squad. For the sake of anonymity, we'll call him John. He shook me awake and told me to come look at something. As I stood up, I noticed my other squad mates were gazing out the window, carefully trying not to give their presence away to whatever it was they were looking at. Look across the street in the second-story window. There's somebody watching us, man, John said to me. I looked down the scope, and John was right. It looked like I was staring into an empty window, but when I brought the gun down, there was clearly something there. How long have they been standing there? I asked. No idea. Wolowitz got up to go take a piss and just so happened to see him, John replied. I looked over at Wolowitz, who was our other squad mate, as he nodded his head confirming John's story. You think it's a scout? Somebody spoke up. I mean, maybe, but that building should be cleared. There's not supposed to be anybody on this street but us, John said. He was right, which made the situation more odd and concerning. John, you still got that rifle with the thermal scope? I asked. John nodded and left briefly to grab it from its leaning position against a wall. He brought it back and, knowing what I was asking, looked down the scope, switching it to thermal imaging. He looked from the scope to the window with his eyes, and then back to the scope again, before bringing the rifle to me and saying, Dude, look, no heat signature there. It probably isn't a person at all. I looked out of the window, and sure enough, even in the darkness of the street outside, I could see the silhouette of what appeared to be a person. They were standing motionless, in the direction of us. I squinted my eyes to make sure what I was seeing was correct. It might be a mirror or a Kotrek or something, someone said. I thought they may have been right, until we all looked at the window again, and saw whatever or whoever it was walk away from the window out of sight. What the fuck, John and I said at the same time. I grabbed my radio to call this in. Grab your shit. We're going over there once we get clearance. If they're a scout, we'd better grab them soon, I said. Everybody started milling about, grabbing their vests and their guns. I got into a small argument with HQ about what I saw. I basically had to beg them to let us go over there to check it out, but I was given the green light. Looking back on the situation, I didn't feel any fear going into that building across the street. Confusion? Yes. Nervousness? Yes, but I wasn't scared of what I was gonna find. John hung back at the apartment to provide overwatch with his rifle. I split the squad up, sending half to the back of the building to watch for any escapees, and half with me as we headed into the front to clear it. We put small explosives on the front metal door, and breached. Just as we had 100 times before, we headed in, clearing floor by floor. We reached the top floor ... and found nobody. The place was completely empty. You see anybody come out? I radioed to my guys covering the back. Negative, they replied. We checked the basement for any tunnel systems, but found nothing. There was no way to access the roof, so this left us all pretty puzzled. Where the fuck did they go? I thought to myself. BANG. We all ducked for cover. It was a single gunshot, followed by screaming that I'll never forget. Terrified screams, coming from the apartment across the street. Shit, John, I said aloud. As we all rushed out of the building and back across the street, the guys around back heard what was up too and tagged along. We made it back to the apartment, and what I saw there will stay with me for the rest of my life. John was laying in a pool of his own blood, with a look of terror on his face. It didn't take a doctor to tell he was already gone. His rifle lay beside him on the ground. But that's not what was weird. What was weird was that his hands and his feet, along with his tongue and eyeballs, were all gone. "Oh fuck," someone said. "What the hell happened?" Someone else said. I had no answer. "Look at the walls," someone said. I looked at the wall, and there was what appeared to be bloody hand and footprints lining the walls and ceiling. It was as if someone had killed John, removed his body parts somehow, and then made off with them by crawling the walls and ceiling to the other side of the apartment. I was furious. I was on the verge of tears. John had been one of the few men I made friends with during the God-forsaken war. I pointed my rifle ahead of me and followed the prints. I followed them to a far room on the other side of the apartment. Then they stopped. It was like whoever, more like whatever, it was, just vanished. We bugged out from that location with John's body. I couldn't imagine the look on his mom's face when she saw her baby, like how we found him. I attended the funeral back home. His mom, along with the army, asked what had happened. We just told them that John had been found by some sicko, and that we couldn't get to him in time. My squad and I still operated after that, but out of respect, and fear at least on my part, we don't talk much about what happened that night. I share this hoping that somehow, someone can tell me what I saw or has a similar story.